Well, hello to everyone who has managed to find this video somehow. First of all, sorry for my English and the mistakes I'm going to make during this recording. I'm not a native speaker and that's a one take, but who cares anyway, let's get started. I wanted to briefly talk about Cyberpunk. I don't want this video to be too long, so I won't go into great detail. You know, just a small summary of the expectations people had so far, my first impressions, the performance and the bugs, and the early reviews I saw on Steam. You know, as for expectations, firstly, I think we all do as gamers, as players, we love CD Projekt for what they stand for in general and what they have given us, you know, in the past. The Witcher series, obviously, therefore, expectations were pretty high for Cyberpunk, especially after Witcher 3, which is, in my opinion, till this day, one of the best games ever made. And yeah, the game therefore has been extremely hyped over the last few years by the people and also by the press, and which unfortunately lead people have some neo-utopian expectations of what this game would be. But also, you know, to be fair, I mean, for the devs, this is also partly uncharted territory. You know, like it's so completely different from The Witcher. The Witcher was The Witcher. It was its own thing, and this is like a first-person netrunner, I don't know, shooter. And I mean, in terms of expectations, I've even read through some forums that people hoped this game would cure the depression or something else, you know. And if you have this kind of expectation for a game, I guess you only can get disappointed at the end. Anyway, I mean, you know, this game is such a huge game in many ways. It's just so big and complex that it was clear to me, at least from the start, that just like in The Witcher 3, there could be a lot of bugs to be found. And also, you may encounter some performance problems, especially one day after release, or 2 days after release. My first impressions are very positive though, although I only spent now I guess about 5 hours into the game. I enjoy the atmosphere so far. I'm looking into every corner, doing sightseeing, and I will for sure take my time with this game. I think I will need at least like 80 plus hours for my first playthrough, and that's the way I like to play. So far I haven't encountered any bugs that I would count as bugs, you know, but I'm sure, you know, in my playthrough I will encounter many of them maybe, but it also depends on when the next patch might get released, and let's see. So far there's not much to be seen in terms of bugs. As for performance, you know, like, well, I'm sitting in game right now and I have a RTX 3090 and it's pushed, this GPU was pushed all the way to the limits, and I expected a bit higher frames, but it is what it is, at least at the moment. When we go into the settings I use, well, I play on 4K and HDR, and the settings in general are basically out of the box what the game chooses, you know, like it's the ultra settings. In terms of DLSS, I did some experiments, you know, like what gives the best performance, and also in terms of quality trade-off. And for me it seems performance gives me a stable near 60 FPS all the time. If I put it to quality mode, you know, my GPU gets destroyed basically. I mean, I don't want to play this game with 40 FPS or so. That's not the way I want to play. So performance gives me the best overall experience, I would say. Go in game. As you can see, I'm sitting at 60 FPS. I just choose this spot here because it just looks nice, you know. And overall, yes, I have VSync enabled because in my case I also have a FreeSync monitor, and this prevents from me getting some minor screen tearing. Here and there, I mean, in large crowds and gun battles, gunfights, you know, FPS sometimes dips a bit, you know, like in the 55 range FPS, something like that. But overall, I'm getting pretty stable FPS. And I mean, as expected, at least that was what I was hoping for, at least. And this brings me, that's I guess a good segue to also the reviews, because I was pretty surprised, personally, to see that they are largely mixed. I won't go into consoles because it's a whole nother universe. I can't speak of that, I'm not a console gamer myself. I just saw some memes and extremely, you know, in my opinion, from what I've seen, this game should have never been released on older consoles. Old in quotes, like PS4 and Xbox One. But anyway, back to PC. I was, like I said, surprised to see the reviews on Steam. And the two major points that stood out were performance and bugs. And reading further into that, what some people wrote was basically, yes, many complained about bugs. Like I said, I haven't encountered any so far. That's just my personal observation. And performance, yeah, I guess, well, also it seems people expected a little bit more. I mean, I would never go with the recommendations of a developer, because often they're not quite as how it's, you know, how it's presented, how it's advertised. And anyway, I mean, when I read some reviews and people have like a GTX 1060, and I don't want to sound mean here or anything like that, but I personally would never touch this game on PC, at least, and that's just me, you know, without at least an RTX 3070, maybe even a 3080. And it seems, at least for now, the point to be made that the devs already talked about that when you push the boundaries, you know, the sliders, the graphic options higher than what your machine can handle, you will encounter bugs and performance issues, like streaming of textures, you know, can't keep up, faces not loaded in time, something like that, you know, character models not loaded in time. And yeah, well, it's a huge bummer, I guess, but that's just the way it is right now. And I can understand that people may be frustrated, but I think they also have to consider that maybe the machine is just not quick enough for what they put in the graphic options, and they have to, I guess, figure out for themselves what it's like. But still, all after that, I mean, CD Projekt Red is not the best because they don't release games without bugs. I mean, The Witcher 3 was also full of bugs, and for a game the scales they produce, it's always there are always going to be bugs, you know, to be found. And I'm hoping that in 2 weeks from now we get at least one patch who will fix some of that. Well, on consoles I think it's unsavable in my opinion, but at least for PC there should be some chance, some hope for some people at least. And yeah, I think that's basically it for now. I mean, now this video got way longer than I would like to be, but anyway, if you also play the game, feel free to share your impressions of the game, bugs you encounter, the performance, and enjoy the game so far, and take care.